Hello everybody and welcome. My name is John Lambe. I'm the Dewsbury Townscape Heritage Initiative Officer, or THI for short. I work for Kirklees Council and I'm based here in Dewsbury Town Hall. Today I'm going to introduce the new heritage trail, the Beeline. This is a trail which goes from Dewsbury Minster to Pioneer House, taking in 10 historic buildings along the way. And you're also learning a lot about the history of the town from its inception up to current day. The trail is part of the THI, a National Lottery Heritage Fund regeneration programme, which has been jointly funded through Kirklees Council and the Heritage Fund. It's been running since 2013 and is now coming towards its end in September 2020. The programme has been aimed at refurbishing certain buildings within the town centre and bringing them back to life, through working with property owners who have been able to apply for grants towards their refurbishment and keeping up the buildings in line with planning conservation principles. It's been a very successful programme and we're very pleased with the outcome. The trail will take some of the properties that have been refurbished along the way, notwithstanding Pioneer House of course, which has been the main building of the programme and will reopen as Kirklees College later this year at the end of 2020. The THI is also about raising awareness and education of the heritage of the town, and with the help of Historic England, this has been able to be undertaken with the circulation of the trail through its Heritage Schools programme. So just as before we head out on the trail, many people ask why it's called a beeline. Well, two things. Firstly, it's a play on the phrase making a beeline. Given that the trail goes from A to B, it makes a beeline for Pioneer House from the Minster. Secondly, it's to take account of the cooperative movement's roots of Pioneer House. The cooperative movement used the beehive on many of its buildings, and it's used to symbolise the benefit of working together to produce a common product, just like bees do. When we get to Pioneer House, you'll see two beehives on the front of Pioneer House carved into the stonework. Be sure to look up and spot them. Through the trail, you'll also learn about the history of the town, from its birth in Saxon times on the River Calder, to forming as a medieval market town, and then its key growth through the Industrial Revolution with the canals and the trains, which supported the textile industry, and most importantly those materials of shori and mungo, which we'll come across later in the trail. These were so important to the area and really supported the growth of the town. So let's get the trail underway and make our way to the start at the Minster. So, hello, here we are at the site of Dewsbury Minster. This is not only a very important site in terms of history of Dewsbury, but also ecclesiastical history. It's documented that in 627, St Paulinus preached here from the banks of the River Calder and baptised his parishioners. Now St Paulinus, he was sent over from Rome by Pope Gregory in 601, originally to Kent. He became first Bishop of York in 625 and formed York Minster. Now he travelled north from Kent with Queen Ethelberga to spread Christianity to the north of England. He became first Bishop of York in 625, where he formed York Minster. And then on Easter Sunday 627 he baptised Queen Ethelberga of Kent along with King Edwin of Northumbria, so as they could be married in the church. He also went on to baptise St Hilda, who formed the monastery at Whitby Abbey. So when you're up at Whitby on your holidays, there's a bit of a connection here back here to Dewsbury with St Paulinus. Now that date of 627 is very key and is recognised here at the Minster through what's called St Paulinus Cross. It's a circle with 627 AD and you'll see it inside the Minster and also engraved around the Minster and also on lampposts. But it's also recognised within the town hall as well. In particular, there's a stained glass window on the upper floor of the town hall, which shows that a very important occasion of the baptism of Queen Ethelberga and Edwin. But not also locally St Paulinus is recognised, and also in particular with the Catholic Church, which is just here on the outskirts of Dewsbury, and along with the school that is attached to the church as well. So we'll move on from now here to the front of the Minster, where we'll take in a blue plaque, and perhaps we might even spot Revd Bronte, who was curate here as well. Now look what we have here. I said we might bump into Revd Bronte, and Charlotte as well, is it?
Indeed.
Oh, lovely. That's great to see you. I'm so glad that we've got you. So, as you know, we've been doing a little bit of a heritage trail, pointing out buildings of Dewsbury and also people connected with them. So it's wonderful that we bumped into you. I'll let you tell the audience and what you're doing. Okay, lovely to see you.
Well, it's Patrick Bronte. I'm on my way for a cataract operation in Manchester. Now, the train has broken down in Dewsbury. We're hoping to get to Leeds, wherefore we may get some transport to Manchester. I'm a little bit apprehensive about my cataract operation, but I'm just hoping that things will turn out all right.
So, Father, why are we here at the Minster?
The train has broken down, and I used to was a curate some years ago.
So you have connections with Dewsbury?
I have, yes. For 2 years I was a curate at the Minster.
I can remember you telling me that you used to teach the poor children of Dewsbury.
Yes, well, in those days, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, really uneducated, I tried to teach them in the best way I could.
Well, I'm very proud of you, Father, coming from such humble beginnings in Ireland and then managing to get yourself to Cambridge University. Well, I do believe they have fresh running water here in Dewsbury, unlike Haworth. As you know, we only have one well at the top of the street.
Well, on the banks of the River Calder, the water is reasonably good. It comes off the Pennines, and at this moment in time, the water is reasonably good.
So hopefully when you've had your cataract operation, Father, you'll have to spend many days in a darkened room, but Martha will be there to look after you.
Well, I'll have to pray, and it'll take time, but I'm hoping that a little bit apprehensive, but it'll be successful.
And Father, I have ideas when I get home. I wish to be a writer, but as you know, it is not common for women to be writers, so I'm going to write under the pseudonym of Revd, and I have an idea for a book about when I was at school. Do you know the school that you sent us to?
Yes.
It wasn't very nice. That's when my poor eldest sisters died. But I'm going to call my story Jane Eyre, about a poor orphan girl.
Well, it's a very appropriate title, and I hope it is a successful book.
Well, Father, shall we go back to the train station and see if we can continue on our journey to Manchester?
Yes.
Follow me.
So here we are at the front of the Minster, and before we move on to our next point, I just wanted to point out a blue plaque to you, which you'll see behind me here. Now, blue plaques have become found nationally on buildings all over the country, and they traditionally are put up by local civic societies or local history groups and point out points of interest on the building, such as important facts or people associated with the building. And this one in particular points out that Patrick Bronte was curate here between 1809 and 1811. Patrick Bronte being the father of the famous Bronte sisters, of course. Now, the local history group here was Dewsbury Matters, which is now called Dewsbury History Group. They produced a blue plaque trail, and this can be done distinct from this particular trail on its own. It's available from the library, and also it can be downloaded. Well worth doing the blue plaque trail in its own right, and we'll pick up a lot of the buildings that we pick up today will feature blue plaques as well. So now we'll move on to our next point, which is going to be Greenwoods. I'll see you there. So here we are, our second building on the trail, Greenwoods. Greenwoods is the oldest shop here in Dewsbury, which was opened by John Greenwood in 1860. It's a lovely little shop, sells all sorts of bits and pieces, jewellery in particular, but also outdoor wear as well. I would really recommend a visit. You get great customer service, which has been long standing from when it opened. It has a new owner now, who has opened a small little museum, which is probably maybe the smallest museum in Yorkshire possibly, but it's well worth a little visit. It's got some very steep stairs to go up, but had lots of nice little bit interesting bits and pieces from what have been donated from around the area. So we'll move on to our next spot now, which is going to be the old schoolhouse. So here we are on the third building of our trail, the Old Church School. This was built in 1843 as a second national school of Dewsbury, built for the education of the poor. You'll also notice a blue plaque on this building which gives you a little bit of history on the building. It is now a community centre known as the Howland Centre, also obviously in community use, and it was renovated recently, and upon the refurbishment if you look up onto the gable end of the building, right at the top there, at the apex and the triangle, you'll notice a small little figure. This is known locally as the Pancake Dog. His name is Yeast, and he was cleaned up as part of the refurbishment. And some people say he looks more like a lion than a dog, but I'll let you can decide that for yourselves. But he wasn't always in this position. He was originally housed on the gable end of the vicarage, which is over at the site of the Minster, and the vicarage was demolished in 1889, and at which point Yeast was put into storage, and how he came to become put on here is unknown. But the legend has it, when he was over at the vicarage on Shrove Tuesday, he would jump down from his perch and to do a little jig and wait to be fed. If that's the case or not, who's to be known? And maybe that legend continues here from this location too. So if you're ever about on Pancake Day, come and have a look and see if that's true or not. Okay, so here we are at the 4th building in our trail, 16 to 18 Market Place. You'll notice again a blue plaque on this building. This is reported to be one of the oldest domestic buildings here in Dewsbury. The building was rebuilt in the 1830s, but you'll notice that actually part of the building is missing. If you look over to my shoulder to the right, you'll see a corrugated part of the building. This isn't the original part. The building would have been symmetrical, so you'll see it follows classical form with the triangular pediment in the middle, and it would have had symmetrical parts to either side of it. But however, as I said, it's not known when that part has gone missing, but it was rebuilt as a cinema. The cinema opened on the 12th of July 1913, originally as the Picture House. It was a cinema right up until 1993, when it closed. It was operating as the Apollo then. That was the last commercial cinema to close in Dewsbury. Part of the original cinema does still remain behind that corrugated section. There is a lovely cupola, which is basically a half dome, which formed the entrance to the cinema. Old pictures show that what this would have looked like originally. It's a beautiful entrance, and you never know, one day that may be restored. So, hello, here we are at Dewsbury Town Hall, one of the grandest buildings in Dewsbury. It came about following the formation of Dewsbury Borough Council, which was formed in 1862. They had their original office up on Bond Street near the railway station, but it soon became apparent that they were too small. So in 1885 they decided to build this town hall here and commissioned local architects Holtham and Fox to do that for them. It was opened in 1889 and it was modelled on Leeds Town Hall and possibly on Pioneer House too, which was built 9 years beforehand, also by Holtham and Fox. It follows the pattern of many town halls around West Yorkshire, as said, including Morley as well. And it houses many municipal functions, such as it had a merchants' hall, concert hall, you can see many fine concerts performed here today as well. It also had a courtroom and a police station and council offices, and council offices still operate from here today, in particular the registry office, and also wedding functions take place here. And also we have lovely rooms where you can come and have your afternoon tea when we're allowed to come out and socialise once again. It's now more recently used for filming of TV dramas. Some of you might have come across the TV drama Love, Lies and Records, which was based on a registry office. That was filmed here. And it's a lovely spot just to pop in and have a look at the stained glass windows, which I made reference to previously from when we were at Dewsbury Minster. I'll just point out the Dewsbury crest to you. The Dewsbury flag flies here from outside the town hall, and it has the colours of blue and gold. Those are the colours of William de Warne, who was Earl of Surrey and a kinsman of William the Conqueror. And he had a manor here which included in Yorkshire, which included Dewsbury. You'll also see on the flag 3 owls. Those are from the Savile family, and of course nearby we have the district Saviletown, because that's where they lived. And we also have crosses, which they represent the Copley family, who were also major local landowners in the area. Now the Dewsbury motto is Deus Noster Refugium et Virtus, which means God is our refuge and strength. Now There's a popular character around this town hall, the rat catcher, and sometimes he's out and about, and just by a look, as may look out, he's out today. So here he is, Mr. Rat Catcher. You're here.
I am, sir.
So are you doing your work today?
I'm always working, sir.
Very good. I'm glad to see it, because it's going to keep you safe from all of those nasty rats. So I'm going to leave you to tell your story now.
Hello there. Yeah, I'm local rat catcher. I've been here all my life. Yeah. I've been doing it since we were young, and when we catch them, we usually put them in here. We drown them. Right? Some of them, them posh ladies, they like to buy them as pets and put them in a cage, you know, look pretty with them. Rats, you see, I'll be there right away. Big and small and fat and thin, makes no difference to me. They're all going in. Rat's tails, threepence apiece.
So here we are on Long Causeway, just in front of the town hall. A few points to point out here at Marketplace before we go to Central Station. You'll see the linear nature of Long Causeway, and this is such because it follows the line of Batley Beck. This actually runs underneath Long Causeway and comes out on the other side of the sports centre into the River Calder. It was actually the cause of quite a lot of flooding in the early 1900s, and Marketplace did flood at that time, and there's quite a few old photographs to show such. You also see the long linear nature of Long Causeway, and this lent itself to one of the locations of the train station here. There are actually 10 train stations in total around Dewsbury, 3 of them within the town centre, one of them being the current station, which is Wellington Road, that opened in 1848. Then you've got the Marketplace station, where we are here now, and this came right up to the town hall. I'll just show you a picture. You'll see how close it came up. That opened in 1867 and then closed in 1930. And then we have the Central Station, which we'll go to our next point of call, which opened in 1880 and closed in 1964. You'll see Long Causeway now is used as a memorial gardens, but underneath the memorial gardens, the space was used during the war as air raid shelters, and you'll see there are some steps showing along the way which would have been the entrances to those air raid shelters. There is also a bandstand on the memorial gardens. This is dedicated to Wallace Hartley. He was the bandmaster on the Titanic, which sank in 1912. He lived at 48 West Park Street, Dewsbury, where there's a blue plaque on the house to commemorate him. As we pan round now into Marketplace itself, you'll see a little bit in the background. This is actually the centre of the town itself, and this would have been where the market would have been in its open stall form, and a lot of those market stalls then did transfer over to its current location in 1937. But it wasn't. There was obviously a lot of change, and as we're experiencing COVID now, there was a plague here in Dewsbury in 1583 to 85, which basically almost wiped out the market as a whole, and didn't re-establish itself until 1740. If we pan round a little bit further, you'll see just behind me there is a building, Broadway House, and this was built in the 1930s. And as I mentioned, the Marketplace station was demolished in 1937, but the 30s was a time of great reformation for Dewsbury. A lot of redevelopment took place, and you'll see these 1930s buildings are distinguishable by the type of windows, the vertical and horizontal lines in particular. They are known as, by the popular manufacturer of these windows, Trittle windows. And you'll just see over my shoulder in the distance, by the tree, the arches of the Central Station, and that's where we're going to go to for our next location. So here we are on our 6th location in the trail, Central Station. You'll see behind me the arches. The arches formed the entrance to the booking hall, and then you would have gone upstairs to the actual platforms itself. This station was one of 3 passenger stations in Dewsbury, which opened in 1880, but also served goods and also served lines particularly to London. The rails were now replaced with what is now the Ring Road. This opened in 1986. The Ring Road follows the exact line of the rails, which the rails would have done. There is still reference to a railway station have been here, of course, but with the station hotel here beside us, which is now a public house, but of course would have served the station for passengers coming and going to the station, let's go across the road now, and I'll let you have a little closer look at the station. Ah, Mr. White,
Hello.
I've just been to your shop,
What, over the way?
16 to 18 Marketplace.
Yes, it's
What?
closed. I'm catching a train here.
Oh,
this is,
right.
This is one of the first railway stations in the world.
Right, well, I won't stop you, pardon the pun, but I'll let you tell them, the guys, what you're doing in, and have a good journey.
Thank you,
Okay,
matey.
all the best.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you. Well, today we're thinking about time. What time is it? Time and travel are totally connected. When you travel anywhere around the world, you need to know the time, because then you can know where you are. But how do we know the time? Before there were watches, and even today, you can look up and say, that's midday, because your shadow is the smallest it can be. But when it's midday in Dewsbury, when the sun is up above us, that isn't 12 o'clock. That's 6 minutes past 12, because there's a difference between Greenwich Mean Time, which is the time that the sun is above Greenwich, it's a place in London on the Thames, and Dewsbury is later, because it's further west. Now, time rules us, and we're all time travellers. We all travel through time, everyone here. But to travel, we needed to know the right time to get on the train, like I am today. And so they changed the law. So there was one time in England, the time in Greenwich Mean Time. But still people didn't really listen. They changed the law in 1833 and nobody really did it till 1880. They had to change the law again and enforce it. And there were people who went to Greenwich and set the time on their clock, and then they'd go around selling it. So you'd ask them, you'd say, have you got the time? And they'd say, give me a penny and I'll give you the time, or maybe a halfpenny, and they'd give you the time. Now that stopped in 1926. Anybody know why? Because you could ring the speaking clock. Amazing. Technology and time and travel are totally connected. So the cutting edge of technology was railways, and they changed to the whole of English time, away from just Dewsbury time, and then the speaking clock, technology, and then say this watch that I have on here. That was changed by the technology that was aeroplanes, because pilots couldn't be fiddling about with everything, trying to find their timepiece. They needed the watch there where they could see it when they were piloting the plane. So as you pilot your plane, remember, time is important. Time tells us where we are. Do you know the time?
Oh, I say I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. Do you know, being a stoker, it's not just about putting the coal in the hole, it's about, you know, the engine. It's the art of the train, right? And the steam is the brain of the train. As soon as that steam gets it going, my job is to push it that way, so it don't blow the... But the engine driver, he has to look at the clocks, he has to blow the whistle, so it don't blow. But I'll tell you what, as soon as them pistons start going with the steam, right, I put my bacon and my eggs on there, and it's time to go. The fire is the art of the train, the steam is the brain of the train, and the pistons are the muscle of the train.
So here we are on our 7th location on the trail, Dewsbury Market. Dewsbury Market is really why the town exists. As we've learnt through this trail, it has been a market town and continues to be a market town. Its main days of trading are Wednesday and Saturday, but we have other markets including second hand on a Friday and a car boot on a Sunday, which is very popular as well. And of course we have the market hall, which we see here behind me. That opened on the 23rd of July 1904 with 40 stall holders, and then moved progressively over here from Marketplace as we've touched upon in totality. It was extended over the years with the semi-covered market, the open market, and now has over 300 stalls. But in order to keep up with the times and changing retail habits, the market is going to be redeveloped to ensure it continues to offer the best offer it can and keep that customer alive for the town. We're now going to move over to the front of the market gates, where we're going to meet two interesting characters.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Greenwood and I have a pawnbrokers on Tithe Barn Street, and I'm just on my way to pick a parcel up from the railway station. Have you ever been to the Greenwood shop? It's really interesting. The most unusual thing that anybody ever brought in to pawn was a pig. Yes, a pig.
So here we are at point 8 in our trail, Corporation Street. It wasn't always called Corporation Street, it was originally called New Bridge Street. So called because it went over Batley Beck, which runs at the end of the street. Today the beck runs underneath the road network, however at that time it would have been open. Around the 1890s, the Dewsbury Borough Council actually bought the street and renamed it Corporation Street. They rebuilt the street and transformed it from what had been a rundown one to this beautiful one that you see behind us now, building the parade of shops. Over time, the shop fronts will have changed, particularly throughout the 1960s, and been replaced with metal framed shop fronts, which are totally out of character with the building as a whole. However, just as the council transformed the building back when it was built, the current council has also done the same with the help of the Townscape Heritage Initiative. That's the Heritage Lottery Fund initiative, which through grant funding has helped to restore these shop fronts back to their original status. You'll see some beautiful shop fronts now, which are timber framed back in proportion of what they would have been, and follow the design principles of the Dewsbury Design Guide. The Design Guide helps architects to achieve the standards of design that we're aiming to achieve across the town as a whole, and Corporation Street sets a good benchmark. So here we are on Foundry Street as we approach point 9 in our trail, Clough Mills, or otherwise known as Machel's Mills. This was a shoddy mungo mill built by the Machel brothers, and it was around the period in the 1870s when textiles in the area was booming, in particular the cloths of shoddy mungo, and the area had a triangle between towns of Dewsbury, Batley and Hetmondwike, and handled over between 70 and 80% of the world's shoddy mungo passed through this area. You'll see that the mill in the middle of the building has a triangular pediment at the top, and this would have had a pulley which would have hoisted up large bales of rags and cloths up and down. The building today is no longer used as a mill, but as it is now residential apartments. It shows how these buildings stand the test of time, but uses just change. In terms of shoddy mungo, this is basically recycling. They were formed old rags and wool, and these were ground out with steam-powered machines and then spun into heavy cloth. Much of the cloth was used in the First World War for uniforms and heavy blankets, and as I said, was transformed far around the world, much of why the railways were so important into this area. So here we are at the Creative Craft Centre in Dewsbury. Well, that process of shoddy mungo and the principles of recycling are very much alive and kicking. It is kept alive through a firm called Inuio. That name standing for, it is never over until it is over. The firm was founded by John and Linda Parkinson, who have family roots back to Batley Car, with their family ancestors actually running a shoddy mungo mill. John and Linda keep that family tradition going today by collecting netwear garments and taking out the bits and pieces, just like that shoddy mungo process, so as that the garments can be shredded. Those bits and pieces are actually for sale here today in the craft centre, such as elbow patches, zips, buttons, so everything is recycled A truly great process. They also sort the garments by colour, so whereby no actual dyes are added to the process either. To keep that local identity going, each wool is given a local name as well. So for example, this one is Daybreak in Dewsbury. This one is Bedtime in Batley. In addition, all the processes which go into making this new wool are undertaken at outlets locally throughout West Yorkshire, so whereby this new wool is a truly local product. So here we are a little bit closer to Machel's Mill, in front of what would have been the offices of the building. As I said, the shoddy and mungo industry was so vibrant in the area that many of the factories had to expand, and Machel's Brothers was no exception. They moved here from their location at Bradford Road and opened this mill in 1874. One of the brothers, William, he went on to be mayor between 1880 and 1882. Head seems to be a real feature on buildings in Dewsbury of this time, and if you go look around, notwithstanding some of the buildings that we've seen today, a lot of heads on buildings, it seems to be quite the thing to be, or fashion of that time. It's also worth noting that the ornate carvings in the stonework, particularly in the arches. This particular inscription you'll see up on another building near the station. They're probably most likely the same stonemason who showed off his craftsmanship. Really worth a closer look. So we'll move on now from here to our final destination of the trail, Pioneer House. So here we are at Pioneer House, our final point in our trail. To understand Pioneer House, we have to go back to its cooperative roots, as it was built as a cooperative building. The first modern cooperative movement was actually started in Rochdale, where the Rochdale Pioneers opened their first shop, 31 Toad Lane, on the 21st of December 1844. And you can still visit that shop today, as it is a museum, well worth a visit. But branches followed suit across the north of England and were inspired by the Rochdale Pioneers, with the first branch here in the Dewsbury area being formed in Batley Car in 1857. The secretary of that branch was Mr. Thomas Wright Fenton. He was great uncle of the Dewsbury-born Eileen Fenton MBE, who was the first lady to swim the English Channel in 1950. Branches around the area continued to grow, but they soon realised that if they got themselves together, that collectively they would have more buying power. And as such, on the 21st of November 1874, the Dewsbury Pioneers Industrial Society was formed. These local branches got themselves together and decided that they needed a big headquarters and stores to provide the local community. As such, they commissioned Holtham and Connon of Dewsbury and Leeds, and on 1878 the foundation stone of Pioneer House was laid, with the main building itself actually opening on the 11th of December 1880. As you can see, it's a grand building, Pioneer House. The ground floor would have housed many individual shops, from drapers, butchers, confectioners, a one-stop shop for all. The first floor housed offices, and then the top floor was a ballroom known as the Industrial Hall, which could hold up to 1,500 people. That later became a cinema, Pioneer Pictures, which opened in 1922. It was the first cinema in Yorkshire outside Leeds to show widescreen cinemascope, the first film being shown called The Robe. Films could not be shown on a Sunday, so instead Pioneer House hosted big name live shows such as Emily Ford and the Checkmates, the Dave Clark Five and Cliff Richard, who performed on the 14th of January 1959. After the branch closed in 1975, the cinema became a bingo hall and finally the Pot Black Snooker Hall. Over time, with the success of the local branch, the building became extended. The second part of the building was extended in 1896. The third part of the building on the corner, which is by the current ring road, was built on the 2nd of May 1914. This is locally known as Roberto's, as popular Italian restaurant Roberto's was one of the last uses to be present in the building. tribute to Roberto still remains, as that has been included in the current restoration, with the signage and entrance still being in place, a fitting tribute. However, in the 1960s, with the growth of supermarkets, retailing habits changed. They moved away from single item buying to bulk purchasing, and ultimately this led to the society closing in 1975. And then in 2005, the Staten Group purchased the building, but their grand plans failed to materialise. With recession and decline, this led to Kirklees Council compulsory purchasing the building in 2011. The council then undertook a scheme to protect the building, making it wind and watertight. And during that period, it further sought partners to try and bring the building back to life. It was successful in doing this, in securing the support of Kirklees College. At the end of 2020, it is planned that Kirklees College will move into Pioneer House, and it will become the Pioneer Higher Skills Centre, a new learning facility to deliver higher education and training in the pioneering spirit that the building was originally built, following those ideals of the Society's founding members. Let's not forget those founding ideals, and in particular let's take a closer look at the building and the fine features that it has, in particular the beehive, which obviously this trail has taken its name from. The cooperative movement used the beehive on many of their buildings, and it can be seen throughout the north of England. They used the beehive because it was a symbol of bees working together for the common good, and just as we have as partnership has come together and brought this building back to life in that sense. So let's go and meet Henry Holtham, one of the original architects of the building, and let's hear his story.
Well, hello folks, my name's Henry Holtham, and I take it you've come to look at my great building here, Pioneer House, what I designed back in 1872. Now I come up here to Dewsbury from Stratford-on-Avon, where I was born, and I came up because it was obvious that the big manufactories, the mills and the like, they were all being built up here in part of the Industrial Revolution, including the combustion engine. So I started off building just houses, churches, and then I got a big breakthrough when the Michel brothers asked me to design the Cloth Hall Mills, which is actually just across the road, top of the market. You can still see it to this day. Went on from there. 1872 was a big date, because that was when the cooperative societies in the north of England all got together and formed the Cooperative Wholesale Society. Now the Dewsbury Pioneers Industrial Society was a big co-op here in Dewsbury, and they were determined to make their mark. They wanted a big grand building. They came to me to design it in 1872. It took a while to get it built, 1876 to 1879 when it was actually built, and you can see it there. And because of the background with the Cooperative Society, they wanted bees. They wanted beehives, because that's all about cooperation and producing benefit for the maximum number with a minimum effort. So up there you can see the beehive, which is incorporated into the decoration, and another one on the opposite side. And then I also did it Italianate, Baroque influences, lots of decoration, and it really made my reputation. So much so that the 1880s, my business really took off. 1884, I designed Swansea Central Library. 1885, it was Burnley Town Hall. 1886, it was Dewsbury Town Hall. So, you know, in that decade, the 1880s, is when I had to take my young apprentice, George Fox, turned him into a partner because he was doing so much work and he contributed so much. So it was Holtham and Fox Architects, and we produced the three major buildings in Dewsbury. That was the Cloth Hall Mills for the Michel brothers, Pioneer House here, and Dewsbury Town Hall. Now, as part of the Industrial Revolution, of course, that was powered by coal, driving all the engines in the mills and that, but it also provided heating in all the domestic houses, which is why we had so many young sweeps around sweeping chimneys.
So yeah, I'm the chimney sweep, so my job is to go up in the chimneys and brush with it, and then when it reaches the top, someone yells up or pokes me, I started at about age 5, but now I've gotten too big to do it myself.
Here we are at the end of the Beeline Trail. I really hope you enjoyed watching it. If you can get out for yourselves and do it, I would really recommend so. It's a great way to understand the history of the town and to admire the grandeur of the buildings. You can download the trail leaflet from Historic England website or pick a trail copy up here from Dewsbury Town Hall. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has been involved with the project. It's been a marvellous production to be involved with, and I think it's a great way to end the THI on. It'll be a really lasting legacy, so people like yourselves can get out and come and enjoy the heritage of the town yourself. So I'll let you do that, and I hope to see you out on the trail at some point soon. Thank you.